Hi guys. Okay. I've had several people asking me out of the percussion revolver series about the spiller and burr. Now, to give you a little background, as I said, I had an original spiller and burr many years ago that I shot and did not realize it was an original until a collector and I got together. But I got this reproduction as a nostalgia piece to me because this was one of my favorite percussion revolvers to use for rabbit hunting. That small little 36 caliber ball, especially when you crimped it good and it's kind of a little bit of flared out flat face, smacked nice and hard but didn't make a big mess, and was very effective for bunny busting for hunting. And so it was one of my favorite, cap and ball revolvers for on those cold February mornings to ease down through these bottoms like you're seeing here behind me and all, and sneak along real slow looking for them bunnies trying to get that little sun get warmed up. That's whenever I really enjoyed this piece. Now, I got this reproduction in kit form and I finished it, and I went through that series of doing it, and I got it sighted in where it shoots point of aim. But even then, there are problems with this design, and that's what I'd like to address in this video. Let's talk about some of the design flaws, really, with the spiller and burr that may be with the modern reproduction that were not with the original, because I had an original. I can now speak to both of them a little bit, okay? The number one thing that I see is a little bit of a The hammer at full cock, the height of the hammer actually blocks the sight picture. And when you get up there and look at it, the tip of the hammer actually blocks the sight notch. It's a crut too tall. Now if that hammer was just down that much more, and all that requires is in the manufacturer, if they just cut the notches slightly further so that in the rotational circle, if it was just a little further up the rotation, so the hammer would come to a rest there instead of there, you could see the sights. I've had to bob off the end of my hammer because that little whisker you got that sticks up on top that covers the top from cat flash stuck up, and when you go to sight, you can't see the sights, you just see the back of the hammer. Okay, and so that is one design flaw that you're gonna have to address. I just took off that tooth on the top of the hammer you see when you cock the hammer and had to flatten it off a little bit in order to give myself an actual sight picture. Another thing is, and let me show you the Remington here for comparison. Now this is the Remington, and if you look immediately in front of the receiver right here, see how you can actually see in there and see the threads of the barrel? That was intentional. Beals designed both this gun, which is a spiller and burr, but he designed the Whitney, which this is patterned on, and he designed that Remington. And there was a design problem with both of these guns, and that is this big block right here that's the breech, and that end of that cylinder, upon firing, that gas comes out in a sheet because it's being squeezed by very tight. Now look at the difference between the front of the cylinder and the front of the frame there. That's like 1/8 of an inch, pushing maybe a 1/2 inch almost, right there. Now look at it on the spiller and burr. It's right there. That means it's kind of like two plates that are stacked very close together, like this. And upon firing, that gas has got to flow out between them. And this causes a sheet to go out sideways. Now if you're standing as much as 8 or 9, 10 feet away to it, and you're not far enough back, that pop goes straight out the sides. And you feel it. Now, what was the weakness of the Remington revolving carbine? You get up here and shoot in, kind of slap you in the face as that hot gas came out, right? Well, it's even worse on a spiller and burr. What's more so, if you look where the slot is up here above the cylinder. A phenomenon that I found with this gun that I did not have with my original, but I definitely have with this gun. And I changed to the Tresco nipples in this one. Okay, so the nipples have been replaced. These are not the factory original. Upon firing, and I often will fire like this, a two-handed hold, you will feel a slap on your hand as that gas comes across the top of the cylinder and blows down, and will often blow the percussion cap off of the gun, and it will impact your knuckle. I mean, like thump. Have you ever had your arm out the window of a car and an insect hit you? That's what it's like. And it's the percussion cap being blown forcefully off of that nipple right there. At full cock, you can see the position of it. That gas coming across there actually scoops the nipple and comes off. I've tried pinching the nipple, pinching the cap several different ways. But probably 1 or 2 times out of 3 or 4 cylinder fulls, it's going to blow it off. And it's going to blow it off with enough gusto that when it slaps your knuckle, you know it. And it's strictly that gas being channeled around that and hit that. That was a weakness of this design. The Remington is much bigger, and so it vents it out better. This being so tight, it actually channels it more. And when you look at it, you can actually see that the cylinder actually sits in a slight downhill inclination to the frame. So the gap is bigger at the front and less at the back. So that compresses that gas coming over and makes it come back there and slap it. Your hands get blacker, faster, shooting a spiller burr than anything else. I will shoot multiple cylinder fulls out of a 5180 and my hand will get dirty. You shoot 1 cylinder full through this and your hand is black from shooting it. And it's that gas blowing backwards towards you. Now, I have tried to relieve it by beveling the front of my frame pretty severely with a file, trying to direct that gas away, and it's still not that effective. So that is 2 points on the spiller and burr. Also, it's kind of like the exact trajectory, all right? I've deepened the notch of the rear sight just a little bit to guarantee that it is as nice and deep as I could get it. And then I've opened up the back notch so I can see my sight in order to get this shooting roughly point of aim. And it was a chore, and I did a complete series on that. But the thing about it is the gun is so small and so compact, and it's a joy to carry. It's fun to shoot. But you need to be aware of, 1, your hand's going to get dirty in a hurry. 2, it's going to, maybe yours will vary, but mine blows that cap off. Sometimes if it's alive over here because you cock, you've got all 6 load because you're at the range, sometimes it'll blow the cap off both these 2 top ones right there, poof poof, at the same time. And it's just that gas coming over the top and the way the cutouts around the nipples kind of scoop that gas as it comes out and just swirls around the nipple. It's a sharper port and it pops. Now I can see why guys back in the historic day said that the spiller and burrs shot harder and that the Whitneys shot harder than a 5180. They're not actually producing more velocity, but there's a much sharper report when they fire, and that gives the impression of more power. Oh, bigger bang. And so I can see those guys in those days believing that. But in a nutshell, do I like the spiller and burr? Yes, I do. Absolutely. I enjoy it. Would I recommend you buying one? Yes. I believe everybody should try this historic design at least once. It's definitely a different flavor than just going with the vanilla of the Colt or the Remington. It's something different. Now, would I change this? If I was the manufacturer, dear Pieta or Uberti or whoever is making this time, Pieta, I would address that, okay? See if you can redesign this just a grunt to make the sight picture better. See if you can make the front sight a grunt taller. You look at the originals, they were taller in order to fit more correctly in that era, okay? More correctly in that fitting. The trigger pull works well, it shoots well, it groups well. I did a lot of work to get it dialed in where I want it to shoot, and I look forward to hopefully this year doing a hunt and shoot of some bunnies and cooking up bunny for you one time. We shall see. But it's a good design. It's a very historic design. And it's one that a lot of people are curious about as to whether or not it's a fun gun. They typically shoot way higher than you're used to, even with cap and balls, because of the angle and the way that the front sight is so short and the frame is so blocky. And it's like it needs a little dialing in manufacture. If I was the guy building that gun, I would change where the notches are cut for the hammer, full cock and half cock, move them a few degrees to make the hammer come back just a grunt more. I would shape the hammer down just a little bit in height so that it hits, because the actual impact to the hammer of the cap is in the middle or to the bottom. It's not up here at the top. So you could actually bevel it off, you know. In some of the originals you look at and it's actually dished. When they cock it, it's a dish where they had cut it out in order to make sure you could see the sight. And then I would make the front sight a bit deeper. The back sight, the groove a little deeper and a little more square on the back end. Those would be my improvements to it. Hope this gives you an idea, guys. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button before you go. And thank you very much for supporting my channel. Until next time, I'm Blackie wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.